Mortal Shell 2 is a massive leap over its predecessor. If you're still on the fence about it, I highly encourage you to see it for yourself, as the open demo is still out and available right now. And it's setting up to be an amazing experience for Souls fans everywhere, which is why today we're going to go over everything you need to know about Mortal Shell 2 before you play it. Also, quick shout out before we get rolling, today's video is sponsored by Zombie Waves. This is a roguelike, a zombie shooter, and the core hook is basically seeing how broken you can make your build while going up against increasingly bigger hordes of monsters. In Zombie Waves, you're constantly encouraged to stack different weapons, skills, gear, and even robot sidekicks to clear the screen as fast as possible. I mean, the sheer density of monsters the game throws at you once the wave pressure kicks in is ridiculously addictive, and it goes beyond basic zombies too, like we've got mutant hordes, aliens, and actual boss fights that will put your skills and DPS to the test. There's nothing like finishing a clutch boss fight when you're down to just 1 HP, but your robot saves you in the nick of time. The runs are also short, so even if you do fail, you can requeue ASAP and test a different setup. So totally check out Zombie Waves by following my links down below or by scanning the code on the screen and get a special starter pack that's worth $50 US. This is going to include 3 weapon pool vouchers, 2 Robot Decryptors, an equivalent draw voucher, and also 888 diamonds. Huge shout out to Zombie Waves again, and now back to our video. That being said, Mortal Shell 2 fixes many of the grievances fans had with the first game. Mainly, it features more polish, much more fluid combat, higher build diversity than ever, and better open world exploration. Even the stamina bar for attacks got removed, which means no more sluggish combat. Which kinda brings us to the first point I wanted to make, and that is, Mortal Shell 2 is all about being highly aggressive. While being cold and calculated is still rewarded, there are several ways the game encourages you to go toe-to-toe even with the most menacing of enemies. One is because melee hits will generate resolve, which is the main resource you get to spend when executing special weapon skills, shell-based techniques, or to fire your sidearms. Most of these abilities, in fact, are exceptionally powerful, which is why the payoff is more than worth it. The game's parry and stagger mechanics were also reworked in the sequel. Instead of the rock-solid mechanic from the first game, now you have different seals that practically provide different versions of parries and guards. For example, the untarnished seal that you start with is the all-arounder, providing blocks and perfect guards, which fills the enemy stagger bar at a normal rate. But we also have the infinite seal, which is the high-risk, high-reward version. The window to react here is much smaller, but the payoff is that it fills the enemy's stagger bars way quicker. The old rock-solid mechanic also comes in the form of a brand new seal, which is the Voucher, letting you turn to stone instead of the regular parry. Plus, there's even a 4th version in the demo right now, which is quite OP. This may disable some of the achievements if you use it, so be careful about that. All of these can be acquired in the first hours of gameplay, by the way, and there's even a fighting area to test them all out to see which one of them fits you best. This also brings us to the shells, because this game has a very unique approach to the class system. Instead of picking a class at the start, you get to find and inhabit the bodies of different archetypes, deepen your bond with them, and gaining access to unique upgrades that further boost their battle prowess. This in turn is going to let you actually play different types of classes within one singular playthrough, as long as you upgrade them enough. And these shells have a separate HP pool too than your core character, meaning that the game doesn't actually end when you get knocked out of them. Instead, you can continue to fight even out of the shell and you will still be quite strong outside of it. It's just that you're not going to be able to cast any of the shell abilities until you get it back. Which, by the way, you can, because the game offers you a way to rebuild the connection by performing melee hits on the enemies that took you down. Once again, proving that being aggressive is key to survival. Besides that, there are 3 returning shells from the original that have been confirmed, including Haros, Teal, and Eredrin, with 9 in total at launch, possibly more that will come out later down the line. But 2 are already available to play right now in the open demo, including Haros and Teal. Each one of these shells featuring a vastly different playstyle with unique mechanics, strengths, as well as weaknesses. Haro, for example, who's played in the prologue, has the petrify mechanic, just like in the previous game, to turn enemies into stone, and Teal can dip in and out of shadows to evade targets or perform assassinations. We've also seen gameplay of Proxima. Yeah, I definitely think this is going to be a very popular one with the fans, featuring a scorpion hook and also a resilient exo shell that can provide massive damage mitigation, so it's not going to be just for the show. Then we've seen gameplay of Eredrin before, used to be the tank archetype in the previous game with massive HP pulls, but coming at the cost of lower stamina, meaning less dodges. However, we're gonna see how that gets reworked in the second installment. All of them also feature unique storylines you can explore to deepen that bond I was talking about, and skill lines with passives that can drastically boost some of their strongest powers. Of course, we can't talk about extra build diversity if we don't also have weapon variety, and fortunately enough, Mortal Shell 2 also greatly expands upon that. While in the previous game we had only 4 primary weapons, the sequel now features 8 total primary weapons as well as 8 secondary firearms. Demo already features the returning Iconoclast as well as the Axe-Dagger pair, but the full game will feature even more, including Heavy Hammer, the Scythe, a Needle weapon, and possibly one of my favorite looking ones, an axe that can transform into a pair of dual katanas, naturally dubbed as the Axatana. You will see that double theme with a lot of the weapons in this game, as a matter of fact. But all of them will provide a much more diverse playstyle than ever before, with the added note that there's no restriction when it comes to weapon loadouts, meaning that any shell can equip any main or sidearm of your choice. Speaking of sidearms, if you play the demo, you probably noticed that they can be absolutely busted. Even the starting nail shot, which is literally a nail shotgun, felt extremely powerful, with many mobs that are normally tanky towards your regular melee hits being completely blown to bits by even a few well-placed shots. And that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface. The demo in fact features a crossbow as well towards the later stages before the final demo boss encounter, but there are other weapon types that have been teased in the meantime, such as the Trebuchet, which is a hand trebuchet that shoots axes, which turns enemies to red mist quickly. There's also a confirmed Triarch Repeater, virtually a machine gun ready to spread pure democracy levels of damage to the demon world, and like I said, there are 8 sidearms in total, fully upgradable and easy to place on any of the shells you want. Now, of course, a lot of these items, shells, and weapons you're going to find via open world exploration, which kind of brings me to the game world point I wanted to make. Obviously, Mortal Shell 2 is much bigger, more vertical, and more ambitious than the first game. Even the open world features more diverse environments than ever. That's because there are way more distractions on the way to give you more reasons to go out there out of the beaten path. Even in the first few demo levels, it was already clear that Mortal Shell 2 is fully embracing the Souls-like, with large interconnected areas, branching routes, and secrets on the way to keep you exploring, all while still doing its own thing, such as the beacon cleansing mechanic, which I really came to appreciate. Think of the bonfires in Elden Ring, but every bonfire also has its own instance dungeon that you need to cleanse, with an entire level featured inside, enemies, and rewards on top. And the game doesn't have a shortage of those either, both that, dungeons, trial challenges on the way, just to name a few in the starting hours that we've seen. And the developer's approach to fast travel also looks fairly unique, because fast traveling from the player hub to these beacons lets you see the whole world map in full 3D view, so you can choose exactly where you want to drop. This also means you're free to kinda jump into your own adventure if you want to go to different places or if you want to pick a different route. As long as you have a beacon in the area, you can progress from that point on, unlock even more beacons, so you can return later down the line and pretty much take that adventure at your own pace. Speaking of your own pace, we also have to talk about progression. We've talked about all the weapons, the shells, but the truth is Mortal Shell 2 features a very modular approach to character progression. On one side, your character's levels are separate from that of the shells you inhabit, which encourages mastering multiple shells in one single playthrough. Each shell has its own unique skill tree with powerful upgrades that can further power up that shell's unique playstyle. Besides that, the game also features different tar stones, including support, combat, infusion, and active abilities versions. Think of them as sort of trinkets or greases from Elden Ring. Infusion stones, for example, need to be activated and can provide effects such as blood curse or fire buildup, similar to the greases like I said in previous Souls games. Combat stones improve your melee or ranged attacks passively, such as gaining leech on attacks, causing projectile explosions, or giving straight up a damage increase. We also have ability stones. These are straight up going to let you cast special attacks that cannot be cast otherwise. They will cost resolve, but it's usually going to be a really powerful one. And finally, we have the support star stones. As the name implies, it further enhances parts of your build, such as gaining extra crit damage to your melee or ranged attacks, or stagger build up, and so on. All tar stones feature multiple levels, by the way, which can be progressed with usage. So as you bring them with you in combat and utilize skills that make use of those star stones, they will progress in levels, but you can also perform special upgrades back at the player hub to make them even stronger. That being said, the demo is still up and running both on PC via Steam as well as on consoles. I totally recommend checking it out. There may still be some bugs, but according to the developers, they are going to be fixed or are already fixed in the full version of the game. Like, for example, spawning issues with various events, like some of those challenges we were talking about. Plus, a bit of weapon balancing will be done as well. You can, of course, check out some of the patch notes once the game comes out. But if you are going to play the beta, it's going to include the first 3 hours of the full game, which will have some benefits carry over to the final release. Mainly, if you play the demo right now, you can skip, or well, have the option to skip the prologue section in the full version. Those who play the console beta for more than 30 minutes will also unlock the Flayed Harbinger, an exclusive cosmetic reward available to redeem in the full game at launch. And most important, you're going to get the option to make an informed decision before purchasing the game, if that is the option, or if you want to skip it entirely. I think that it's one of the most solid Souls-like I've played in quite a while at this point, and it definitely got me excited for the full launch. Expect a lot more content on the channel around Mortal Shell 2 once it comes out on the 17th. So in the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.